All right, I thought as we get to the end of the year, I might take us back to some of the beginnings of the internet and to really understand Web3 domains, which I think means that there's going to be disruption of the existing system. It might be good to understand a little bit about the existing system. If you're a cryptocurrency investor or you just weren't around when the internet started, and you're going to find out that most of the people that living today and using the internet weren't. Going back and understanding how it came together, I think is going to help creative people come up with new solutions and new ways to take advantage of it, because the authoritarian part and the part that needs to be decentralized really didn't come about till the early 90s. But before then, there was a lot of great things that happened. So I put a link in the bottom of WebFX's blog here by William Craig, The History of the Internet in a Nutshell, and I want to give due reference to them for this structure, the way they did it. But really, the first date that they start with is 1969, so literally 53 years ago. And an idea was invented called packet switching. And the thing that's important about understanding packet switching, to understand why the internet is important, why domain names are important, why root servers are important, is packet switching was the idea that you could take a piece of digital data and break it up into multiple parts and then send those parts in multiple different ways potentially, but they would all come together at the same endpoint and reconstitute the original data packet. And I'm even going to go one step before that to understand digital investing and digital currencies and digital domain names. You have to understand that a big switch happened in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s away from analog. In the analog world, you would hear music. That music would be transferred to vinyl in a record, and based upon the vibration of a needle, it would create the physical sound. So there was an authenticity to it. When you talked on the phone, you actually had a connection through a phone line from who you were talking to through a phone line that modulated in a way that produced the sound. And when everything switched to digital, that's what's brought on a big part of the revolution that's happened, is that now you have small packets of data that represent the sound that's being made, that represent the piece of data instead of it being written down somewhere. Even something like typeface, if you think about printing, it used to be you had to take a typeset and actually print the shape of a letter on a piece of paper. And you could scan that or you could fax it, but it was still a picture of a physical letter. And now on the internet, you're actually not even sending that letter, you're sending a digital file that represents the location of that image or letter. And that's a big reason why we can have emoji domain names. But anyway, back to the beginning, ARPANET was one of the original things. Computers at Stanford and UCLA in the United States connected for the first time. And here's a trivia question for people. You can say these were the first host. So if you think about the word host, that means that they have data. Each one of those computers had data sitting on it, and it was going to share that data like you would host a birthday party, host an event with another computer. And that's the way the internet works, is you have a host, and then you have other computers that are requesting that data from the host. So the first message that was sent across the network was supposed to be login, but reportedly the link between the two letters crashed at the letter G. So you can answer the trivia question, what was the first message sent across the network that would become the internet? And it would simply be LO. Happening at the same time were other languages like Unix that were coming along. And then we had the beginnings of what was called the ARPANET, and it was established between Harvard, MIT, and BBN And that started to develop this idea of internet connected computers. And I'll talk about more in my next voiceover.